Hey guys, I'm Nick. Welcome back to Fantasy Food Show. The holidays are upon us, and what better way to celebrate than to make a traditional Yule Log Cake? And I've been rereading Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, which inspired the Miyazaki film, Howl's Moving Castle, which just so happens to have the fire demon CALCIFER, voiced by Billy Crystal, and he just happens to sit on a log. So I thought I would combine the two, and today I've made this CALCIFER Yule Log Cake. Let me show you how it's done. To make the cake part of our Buche de Calcifer, you will need a quarter cup of cake flour, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, a quarter teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, a half a cup of granulated sugar, and remove 1 tablespoon for later. You'll also need 2 large eggs, plus 3 large egg yolks, and 2 large egg whites, and these should all be at room temperature. The tools you will need are some large mixing bowls, a fine sieve or strainer, a 17 by 12 inch baking tray lined with parchment paper, some cooking spray, a clean kitchen towel, an offset spatula, a rubber spoon or spatula, a small sieve, some more flour for dusting the pan, and some powdered sugar. Start by preparing your pan by spraying it with cooking spray, and then place the parchment into the pan. Then spray again. Dust the pan with flour and spread it evenly throughout the tray, dumping out any excess. To make the cake batter, add 2 large eggs plus 3 large egg yolks to the bowl of a stand mixer. Add the sugar and vanilla and mix on high speed until the egg yolks have turned light and frothy and all the sugar is combined. When you lift the whisk up, it should fall into ribbons back into the batter. Then transfer the mixture to your larger mixing bowl and set aside. In a separate mixing bowl, sift together the cake flour, cocoa, cornstarch, and salt. Pour half of the dry ingredients into the yolk mixture and gently fold them in with a rubber spatula. Try to scoop from underneath the batter and fold over on the top so you don't lose too much of the air you've just whipped in. Then fold in the rest of the dry ingredients. In a separate clean bowl, add the egg whites and cream of tartar. And with clean beaters, begin to whip them on medium-high speed. Sprinkle in the reserved tablespoon of sugar and keep beating just until they hold stiff peaks. Then add a bit of the egg white mixture into the batter to lighten it up. Then gently fold in the rest. Pour the finished batter into the baking tray and spread it out with your offset spatula. Bake at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 6 to 8 minutes. Once the cake is baked, immediately run a butter knife around the edges to loosen them, and dust the top with powdered sugar. Lay the clean kitchen towel over the top of the cake and flip it out onto your work surface. Remove the parchment paper and dust the bottom with more powdered sugar. Then gently roll the cake up in the towel. You don't have to make it very tight, and let it cool completely to hold its shape. To make your candy calcifer, you will need a silicone baking mat. If you don't have one of these, you can pour the candy onto parchment paper, but I would not use wax paper for this. This recipe is enough to make at least 2 calcifers, and the template can be found on the website. 2 cups of granulated sugar, 3/4 of a cup of water, and 3/4 of a cup of light corn syrup, food coloring in yellow and red, large candy eyeballs, and some royal icing dyed orange. In a heavy bottom saucepan, add the sugar, corn syrup, and water, and begin to heat over medium-high flame. You can stir at the beginning to combine everything, but then stop stirring and wash down the sides of the bowl using a wet pastry brush dipped in water. This will help the candy from crystallizing. Add a candy thermometer and bring the sugar mixture up to the hard crack stage, which is about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Pour the hot candy into 2 glass measuring cups, and be very careful because it's really hot. Tint one batch yellow and the other orange, using a few drops of yellow food coloring and 1 or 2 of red. You can go as dark or as light as you want. Mix those in with a wooden skewer, and don't worry if it bubbles up a little bit, that's just the moisture from the food coloring evaporating. Place the template under the silicone mat, or you could always freehand it, and start by slowly pouring the yellow candy into the center of Calcifer's face. Outline it in orange candy, and make sure to get the square bit at the bottom. That's going to be the part we insert into the cake later. If your candy starts to cool too much so it's difficult to pour, pop into the microwave for about 10 seconds to reliquefy it. Let the candy cool completely, about 20 to 30 minutes, and then add the candy eyes by using a little of the royal icing to act as glue, and then pipe on more icing to make the mouth. Calcifer has many moods, so feel free to be creative with his expressions. To make the filling, you will need 2 cups of heavy cream, 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder, a half a cup of granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Combine all the ingredients in a large mixing bowl and beat on high speed for a few minutes until it's fluffy and holds stiff peaks. Don't overwhip or you'll have chocolate butter. You can also fill this cake with whatever you want. You could use fruit, jam, frosting, or even ice cream. Now that my cake is cooled, it's time to fill it with the chocolate whipped cream. So I'm just going to unroll my cake slowly. And this is why we used the towel and the powdered sugar so it didn't stick. All right, now I'm going to take a generous amount of my chocolate whipped cream. Just plop it right on. Using your offset spatula, spread the whipped cream out almost to the edges of the cake. Then roll the cake back up, and you can put some of the remaining whipped cream in a Ziploc bag, cut off the end, and pipe more cream into the ends of the cake. To make the ganache frosting, you will need 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate and 2 ounces of milk chocolate, 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream, and 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into small pieces. It's time to frost the cake. And to make the ganache frosting, what I did is I took that chocolate, chopped it up. You can do that by hand or you can put it in a food processor. Then I took the cream and the butter, put it on the stove for just a couple of minutes till it came up to a boil, took it right off the heat and then poured it over the chocolate. Then I stirred it together until it all came together, and I let it sit for a good hour, maybe even 2 hours. It really depends on the temperature of your home, until it looks something like this. So it's like a spreadable frosting. And just to keep my platter clean, I've put some wax paper pieces underneath my cake, and that way I can take it out when I'm done. So I'm going to take my ganache and just spread it on top. And then with my offset spatula, just frost my cake. Once you've frosted your base coat, you can make a branch by cutting off a small piece from one end and sticking it onto the side. I made another cake earlier where I didn't do that, and I'll show you what that looks like too. Use some of the whipped cream and mix it in with some of the ganache to lighten its color, and use that frosting on the round edges of the cake. Use the skewer to draw lines across the surface of the cake to look like tree bark. Add some knots to make it look even more realistic. You don't have to worry about being too straight with the lines. It should look jagged and rugged like a real tree. All right, it's the big moment. I'm going to put my calcifer into my Yule Log Cake. So we've got 3 different calcifers here. You let me know in the comments below which one you like the best. Calcifer 1, Calcifer 2, or Calcifer 3. I think I'm going to do number 1. So I'll take my first calcifer here. And I should be able to stick it right in the cake. If you've refrigerated it, you might want to put a little hole with a knife or something. But let's see how this goes. Yes! Oh, it works so well. I'm so excited. Using a sharp knife will give you a cleaner cut. Here's number 2, looking pretty surly. And in he goes. Decorate your cake with fondant leaves, candied cherries, or whatever you want. And there they are, my Calcifer Yule Log Cakes from Howl's Moving Castle. They're a chocolate lover's dream and a great centerpiece for your next holiday party. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, check out our website, fantasyfoodshow.com. And if you like to make this cake but want to do it in a simple mode, I'll have an extra video on the website. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next time on Fantasy Food Show.